Hello and welcome to the Rotherham Advertiser Sports Chat Podcast. Joining me around the table this week is Miller's correspondent David Beddows.
Hello.
And news editor Michael Upton.
Good morning.
Gentlemen, it was a case of deja vu at the New York Stadium on Saturday. Rotherham building up a 2-goal lead thanks to Izzy Brown's first goal for the club and Greg Halford / Aidan Flint own goal. Gave them a good 2-0 lead, but Dave, they wilted under the pressure much like they did against Wolves on the first day. Conceded a 2-goal lead. And ultimately, it could have been worse, couldn't it?
It could have been. I think it's a familiar pattern, this, isn't it? That the Millers are just too easy to get at. I mean, the 2 goals were gifts, weren't they? They were cheap goals, not the type you get in the Championship. And I mean, if that had been another 5 or 10 minutes that game, it'd have probably gone Bristol's way. I thought the players did put it in for Alan Stubbs. There were a lot of commitment there. How many red shirts were behind the ball? As the clock ticked down, but. It were frenetic and anxious day all round.
It's important, isn't it, that the different managers play different styles of football, and it's all well and good trying to stop the other team and hit them on the break, hit them on the counter-attack, playing a counter-attacky football. Leicester won the Premier League doing it last year, home and away, against Manchester United and against the teams who got relegated. It was their style of play. And that's all well and good, but when you haven't got an outball, as Rotherham did on Saturday, it just becomes you camped in your own half, doesn't it?
We're an outball. I mean, this is a Rotherham team, bear in mind, these days, who are putting more pride in keeping all the ball, looking after it, knocking it around and denying the opposition, possession. So, I mean, look, the possession stats 74%, which is staggering, really, particularly for an away team. So, there's plenty to think about at a Wednesday, isn't there?
Michael, obviously the fans weren't too happy with what they saw. Another capitulation, 2 goals up, surrendered yet again at home, and a pretty lacklustre performance in all honesty. Although, as Dave says, there was some good defending moments and things like that. Fans right to vent their frustration at the full-time whistle?
Oh, I can't blame them, to be honest. I have to say, you must feel that the ghost of Neil Warnock is hanging over this side somewhat. New manager, new players, trying to stamp his own feel on the team and on the club, and coming off the back of a very good end to last season. I know a lot of Rotherham fans, and they would have Warnock back in the blink of an eye, and that's the trouble. Alan Stubbs has got to impose himself in this squad and make sure he doesn't become one of those managers that has half dozen games and then is out the window. I don't think that's going to be the case with Tony Stewart. I think he's picked his man, he's going to stick with him. But unfortunately, results like Saturdays and performances like Saturdays are not going to get him anywhere. You talked about Leicester. Leicester hit teams on the break, but I think you would expect more than, I think it was something like 23-24% possession at home at any level and against any side. And I don't think, and we were talking about this before, I don't think Bristol City are going to be any great shakes this season. I think they'll do all right. I think they've invested reasonably well. But I don't see them doing a Huddersfield or a Barnsley and ripping up the top end of the table.
David, and this is part of the issue, the fact that a team, Bristol City, who may be looking finishing top end of mid-table, come to New York Stadium and absolutely pass Rotherham off the park. They barely gave them a kick. It were attack against defence for the majority of the game.
Yeah.
What's going to happen when Newcastle come, when Derby come?
Well, there's a logjam of very, very good mid-ranking Championship teams. And that nut, getting amongst that group is particularly hard for Rotherham to crack. I mean, talking about styles, Leicester have changed the style slightly this season. Rotherham certainly have. And it's a question here, Rotherham need to walk before they can run. They've been asked to play a completely different way to what they did under Neil Warnock. And suffice to say, as well as we did under Neil Warnock last season, the last 4 or 5 games Rotherham failed to win.
And the football wasn't brilliant. It wasn't. They talk about the entertainment industry, and it wasn't particularly breathtaking football, was it, under Neil Warnock?
Absolutely, and but it was very, very effective and finished with a 5-0 defeat at Hull. So it wasn't all hunky-dory. It was past a difficult task, was Alan Stubbs, but Rotherham need to somehow get back to being difficult to beat, resilient, and play the football from there.
The irony is that the success of the Neil Warnock side was down to having leaders in that team. And I've said it before this season, and I'm sure I'll say it again before the season's out. You look at that Rotherham team and you think, who is going to be driving them forward? Who's going to lead them through the darkness, so to speak? Still missing Kurt Broadfoot, that's a big problem. And I'm sorry, when you get passed off the park by Bristol City, people are going to ask again, because we've not really had the chance to ask this yet, what the hell was going on with getting rid of Richie Smallwood? I mean, a man who always looked comfortable in possession, always looked solid in the central midfield, I know he's put a couple of more defensive-minded guys in front of the defence, but you're going to need experience, and constantly chopping and changing the side, bringing new players in, it's going to leave you exposed sometimes.
Dave,
you need leaders on the pitch.
Just talking about that experience, it's a very good point actually, because Rotherham's 4 missing men, Kurt Broadfoot, Lee Frecklington, Tom Adeyemi and Dexter Blackstock, have all racked up so many championship appearances between them. They're all on that side of the career now where they can be classed as experienced individuals, no longer prospects or youth players or anything like that. In there you've got at least 2 captains in Frecklington and Broadfoot, and it's the spine of the team.
Absolutely.
How important to Alan Stubbs' plans are them players coming back from injury?
I mean, Broadfoot is a leader, as Michael's touched on. Frecklington is a driving force, isn't he, midfield? He's
the man who could get you turn defence into attack.
He is. He's a big figure. Adeyemi, from what we've seen him in briefly, he's mobile but he's strong as well, so he's a good addition. And, Dexter Blackstock, hopefully, has been a man who can come in and give Danny Ward some help. That's 4 big figures there. And, Alan Stubbs still hasn't been able to field his best 11. When he gets it bedded in, that's the time really to make a proper judgment.
And Michael, do you think he'll be afforded that time? I mean, I know you said you think Tony Stewart will be patient and give him the time, but if Rotherham lose on Wednesday night against Nottingham Forest at home, and there's chance of Stubbs out coming from the crowd, which doesn't appear to be too far away at the moment, will Tony Stewart's hand be forced?
I don't think he's that kind of man, to be honest. I mean, I think we were all a little bit taken aback by the Neil Redfern decision, and I think he pulled off a bit of a coup getting Neil Warnock in that instance. And he's decided this time, I think particularly at the start of the season, that Stubbs is his man. He's invested in bringing in what players he has. It's going to be an element there of approval, at least for the time being. And I think there is too much chopping and changing, especially in the Championship, of managers. I know that the risks are there for the ones who are shooting for promotion and don't get there. But frankly, you bring another manager in with a relatively experienced, relatively new squad, they're going to have similar problems. It's not as if Alan Stubbs, with the greatest respect to the players, has got a team full of Galacticos he's not getting the best out of. I think what he's got to do is try and get a bit more solidity, and he tried that on Saturday and it didn't quite come off. I think it is unforgivable twice in the opening games of the season to be giving 2-goal leads away, though. I mean, the humiliation against Barnsley and the dismantling by Rotherham of Aston Villa were one thing, but to be throwing leads away at home, when you go a goal down, when you concede a goal, it's criminal to concede another one fairly soon afterwards, isn't it?
I think the concerning thing is that the points we've got are a bit fortuitous. I mean, Brentford wasn't fortuitous.
Wolves could have gone the other way.
Wolves could have gone the other way. Saturday could have gone the other way, and the defeats have all been convincing. We've not had many hard luck stories to tell. We need. I mean, it's the old adage, isn't it, that Steve Evans and Neil Warnock used to say: we need to be in games after 70 minutes. That these matches need to be tighter. We need to be more competitive, but it needs time. And so if I say Derby around there, Wednesday night started too well, and that point on Saturday did move us up out of the bottom 3. But obvious concerns at this stage, but it needs time.
Just want to ask your opinion finally, gentlemen, on one point that's been raised to us through social media and on several other platforms as well. Alan Stubbs, Michael, doesn't seem to acknowledge the fans after the game, and that's, although only maybe a minor point, it seems to be something that's sticking in the teeth of Rotherham United fans. He doesn't come out of his dugout and applaud around the stadium. He doesn't give a little wave as he's walking down the tunnel. He goes onto the pitch, shakes his players' hands and leaves. How big of an issue do you think that is? And is this part of the problem why fans are maybe feeling a little bit cut off from the team?
I think it's a bit funny actually, because Alan Stubbs as a player was very much a big personality, and he would always have Celtic and Everton and Bolton. He had a very big bond with the fans at all those sides. And so I find it rather surprising that it's almost like his managerial persona is completely different from his playing persona. And perhaps he wants to be calm, cool, collected. It wouldn't be that much of a difficult gesture, would it, to wave? I was sitting in the away end at Aston Villa, and that wasn't a good performance, and it wasn't tactically brilliant, and it didn't come off. And lots of people left early, but the Rotherham fans that stayed behind, I know would have been not so much grateful, but would have appreciated the players came over and clapped, which for the most part they did. And I hate to say that name again, but I think Warnock would have come over and clapped, even after a 3-0 defeat. And I think Steve Evans almost certainly would have done that. Managers do have to build some kind of profile, and they do have to have some kind of. And I don't think there's a necessity to it, but I think if you've got a bond with the fans, they've got some kind of relationship with the fans, then it might insulate you when you have the odd rough ride, because you feel like you're in it together.
Dave, do you see that as well? Is it a big problem, do you think, or do you think it's been blown a little bit out of proportion?
It's been blown up a little bit. I mean, you don't have to win any popularity contests to be a manager. You know, if you're winning games, that speaks for itself. I mean, he's not a jack-in-a-box type on the sideline, is he? He's not jumping out and on the sideline. We've been used to Steve Evans and Warnock and people like that doing that sort of thing. So
nobody's saying he has to do a Jurgen Klopp though, Dave. All he has to do is wave, clap, and then go. And that's nothing. But at least
I think the fans see it as.
This is an appreciation.
I think the fans see it as that they're paying their hard-earned money to watch football that's not brilliant, Stubbs is urging the fans to be patient, urging them for realism. Well, maybe a little clap to show. To say thank you for your patience might go a long way.
Maybe. I mean, it's a new experience for him as well, isn't it? I mean, he's come from Hibs where I suppose it was like a mill pond compared to what he's gone into what's happening here. So it is new for him, and it's something he's dealing with. He's still, a relatively young manager, remember. But yeah, a bit of that, a bit of acknowledgement will go miss.
So they do go straight back into action on Wednesday night, home to Nottingham Forest. I'm going to ask you for your predictions now, gentlemen. It could go either way, I'm sure you'll agree, and you never really know what to predict with Rotherham at the minute.
Even if they're 2-up at half time.
Exactly. Yeah, I won't put a bet on them finishing the game as winners. So Dave, we'll start with you. Which way do you think it's going to go? Is it going to be a turning point, or is it going to be more gripes and groans afterwards?
Well, I mean, Forest are coming here on the back of a hard afternoon at Aston Villa, aren't they? So Rotherham got that extra day's rest as well. I mean, I'd take a draw now, and I think it may well be. I'd just take a solid performance and a 1-1 draw.
Michael, is the performance almost more important than the result? Just see some signs of progress and team ethic and style, just for progress.
I think progress is important, but I think not losing, just to keep the fans off his back, is important. I don't think they'll be happy with a 0-0 draw, to be honest. I think Rotherham fans have got fairly limited expectations, but they've got no expectations. I think it may well be a 1-1 draw. And the narrative's all set up, isn't it, for a Mr. Blackstock to come and haunt his former employer?
Well, Mr. Blackstock, Mr. Halford, Lee Camp saving a penalty, Kelvin Wilson towering in a header. There's plenty to choose from, isn't there? There's plenty of headline makers. Right, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We'll wrap it up there. If you want to get involved, you can by tweeting us at RothTiserSport. Get your predictions through to us and we'll retweet them back out again. And make sure that you keep in touch with us on Wednesday evening when Rotherham host Nottingham Forest. Once again, thank you for listening.